My name is Isabel Tarr. I'm 19 years old. I've been racing since I was 10 years old, so it's quite a while. What is that, like 9 years? Almost 10 years now. Racing runs in my family. My dad and my grandpa were GT drivers back in their day. They would just set up cones around, a random airport and start driving. And so naturally they put me in a go-kart in Hungary, of all places. It was like a rental place. And eventually we got our own go-kart, our own chassis, and we headed to the track, and now I'm racing. I would say to prepare for a race, that would start a few days before the race weekend. We would first need to figure out where we are going, what kind of track it is, if it's grippy, if it's not grippy, if it's twisty, or if it's just mainly straightaways. And we would have to set up the kart to drive that track correctly and fast, of course. So once we figure that out, we basically tear apart the kart. We disassemble the kart, we put it back together just to make sure that all the bolts are tight, nothing is broken, and just clean it overall. I would say most karts are pretty much the same. I think the only thing that would change is, if any specific team wants to do anything different. I would say pretty much everyone just disassembles their kart. The drivers do their own thing, they have their own routine, I have my own routine, stuff like that. Karting is just the entry level. You can make a lot of money in karting, but you have to be super good at that, and it's quite difficult to do. Usually you don't just do that by driving. So my goal in racing, from weekend to weekend, is just doing better. I try to improve every single weekend. For career-wise, it wouldn't be terrible to be an F4 driver or maybe even a test driver for certain teams. But yeah, just trying to improve as a driver. I would say Lewis Hamilton is definitely a role model for me. He's an F1 driver, and some would argue he's a world-class driver, one of the best maybe. And he's quite calm. He's very calm on the head, and that's very important in racing. To be calm in your helmet, and he's just overall a very good person, and he tries to improve every single weekend, and if something goes wrong, he doesn't let it bother him and just moves on to the next race day. Here on my home track, I have a pretty good friend of mine, and she's pretty awesome. But even going from racetrack to racetrack, you make a lot of friends. A lot of people try to help you if you're struggling. A lot of people are trying to get you up in the field. People in the racing community are very, very kind. And so you just make a lot of relationships either with, other teams or just other drivers. It being a male-dominated sport, you don't see very many women. And so going into a race weekend, especially, nationals or regionals, there's a lot of men, and it can be quite intimidating. Last weekend, a race day, I'm doing quite well. I was, second place, and there's a lot of people who will underestimate you. They will try to push you around on the track. They will intimidate you. They will tell you things that, you can't do it or you won't be able to do it. And that can be very, very hard. But, you can't let it bother you as a woman. A lot goes through your mind. It's really, really important to stay calm. But when you're on the grid and you're starting up front with all these pro drivers, it can be very, very easy to get into your own head. Like, what if I mess up the first corner? What if this happens and that happens? So it can be pretty nerve-wracking. Before I even get on the grid, in between races, I like to not think about my next race. That really helps me, not overthink what I'm going to do. And when I get on the grid, I put on my suit and my helmet very early so I can feel by myself, so I can relax and just really get into my own zone and get into a very calm place. When I'm behind someone, when I'm following someone, what motivates me is trying to pass them, of course. Having trust in the driver in front of me to brake at the correct time, to turn at the correct time. And so when I'm falling behind, that can be very disheartening. I know my past race weekend I started 4th and I fell back about 3, 4, 5 positions, which is quite a lot. And so In order to, keep myself calm, I just focus on my marks. I know what I've been practicing for. I know that I can pass the people in front of me. Eventually the positions will start to come back to you. You'll start to pass them and everything will feel very much better.